Hello and welcome to GreenFleet Talks. My name's Kate Armitage. I'm your host for our discussion today, and we've got something a little bit different for you. I'm delighted to be joined by Sean Hull, who is the Head of Business Development Contract Hire at Fraikin. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Kate. Really nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. We've had a little bit of a chat already, and I'm really excited for this discussion, I have to say. Before we kind of dive into the heart of the discussion, can you tell me a little bit more about Fraikin and the work that you do and your role within the company?
Of course, yeah. In terms of Fraikin, we are we're actually one of Europe's largest contract hire, rental and fleet management business, specialising in trucks and vans. So we have approximately 60,000 vehicles across Europe and about 10,000 in the UK. Personally, I've worked for Fraikin now for 9 years. And lead our business development management team for contract hire and supporting our customers. The Fraikin customer actually, Kate, can be quite diverse in terms of the sectors, but what they have in common quite often is they're in a service critical sort of industry where the truck or the van is mission critical for the operation, but actually their specialism is something else, and what they want is a proper partner.
Great. Okay. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the diversity of your customer base, because the diversity of your vehicles and the different jobs that they're doing. I mean, this really typifies the HGV market anyway, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
In many ways, no two trucks are the same, because there's always a different business driver behind it. But from a GreenFleet point of view, it's great that we're talking about trucks. It's great that we're talking about how we can take the carbon out of trucks. I've long said that they make up about 2% of all the vehicles on British roads, but are responsible for about 20% of the emissions. So this is a really important nut that we've got to crack. And it's great to know that you're on the case, Sean. So let's start at the beginning, as we do when we're looking at decarbonising or transitioning a fleet. We talk about the data, both of the vehicle and the driver. Why is this key to helping to understand the transition plan, especially for trucks?
It's a good question. I think, in fairness, at Fraikin, we consider really that data really is a central piece in the transition to alternate fuels. For operators, it's not really just a tool for efficiency. It's required really to be able to make strategic, sustainable, correct decisions. So really at Fraikin, we would advise all businesses really to embrace the role of data as soon as possible. And that's really regardless of when they expect to start their transition plan. Because once you've got an established history of vehicle and driver data, you can then unlock the principal solution of all the key questions, of the key considerations that you need to make to transition to that greener future. And I think for us, this was a key part of the decision that we took a few years ago, where we have connected really advanced technology across all of our fleet. So whether that's our long-term contract hire vehicles, whether it's short-term rental vehicles, all the vehicles we supply come with very advanced technology. And we've now branded that as My Smart Fleet. What it's for is it's to ensure that all customers, whether they're small SMEs, whether they're very large national businesses, have access to not only the data, but also the support and expertise to analyze that data and really come up with some meaningful information to help determine the most suitable way forward. So we see our role with our customers as their fleet partner and really the conduit to that data. And we will consult with customers to really analyze and make sure that that our customers make the best decisions to make sure that that transition is at the right time and is a successful one as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. I mean, I think we all appreciate that the truck market and the decarbonisation of the truck market is really just in its infancy, and it is starting to happen. But because you're collecting that data from all of your vehicles, you must have a fairly good feel for what's achievable in the short term, middle term, what's going to be more problematic. Are your customers on board with this, or have you got customers who are saying, I'm just waiting for the right green vehicle to come along?
Absolutely. I think we have different customers at varying stages, and often that can depend on many factors. It can depend on the industry that they're in, and particular when there's a particular focus on decarbonisation within their industry. And it can also depend on the contracts that they're trying to win, because quite often now there's a pressure to make sure, particularly with government contracts, that decarbonisation forms a key part of the fleet moving forwards. So, I mean, for us, when you look at this, there are today various options which are practical and can work for some operations. The key to that really is understanding what operation it is, things like mileages, infrastructure, routing, all of that stuff really needs to be considered before you look at which is the right potential alternate fuel, if one is suitable.
Right.
I think the thing for me is that there is no one size fits all,
Right.
Particularly on HGV. You look at what's available today, and we have electric trucks already available, CNG trucks, biofuels, and in the future you'll have hydrogen as well. There's a vast myriad of different choices that a fleet operator could make, and I just think that really the key to that is really understanding through data what the operation is, and our role then is to help then interpret that to make sure that the operator can make the right choice. So I'll give you an example, Kate. Actually, a good recent one that we've done with a customer that we were looking at different alternate fuels, and CNG was one route that they looked at taking on tracked units. They're a high mileage operation, and the savings on both carbon and cost were clear. The challenge was that actually their sites are not located really close to the existing UK infrastructure.
Yeah.
But actually, when you analyse their data, they're trunking all over the UK, and in day-to-day operations, they pass the existing CNG station. So what they've done is it's a re-education of driver piece. So if you look at diesel, the driver would start to think about refueling that diesel when he gets to the red. The change on this is that every time that they pass one of the CNG stations, they refuel.
Pull in, right. And you can put that into the routing and scheduling, can't you? So to make it,
absolutely,
So it's baked into their day without them having to think too much about it.
Correct. And then I think so that, I mean, that's a piece on the CNG infrastructure, but on a separate point, we do hope that to see more collaborative initiatives come out, particularly for HGV operators, because of the size of some of the infrastructure that's needed for both gas and for EV. So what we'd like to really see is collaborative options that could potentially be shared between interested parties. I must say though, I think one of the biggest, the most common challenge really is due to often the uplift in cost of this fleet, and because of the various challenges that the whole world experiencing at the moment in terms of costs to operators. Key to this is understanding the total cost of ownership model, because we need to ensure that the move towards the greener fleet is practical and environmentally beneficial, but also that it translates really into ideally enhance profitability, but at the very least, operational viability for the business. And I think coming into that, particularly on truck, you said, Kate, and I agree with you, by the way, that truck is much more in its infancy than van, and it's obviously much more than car, which is very much now, pretty much on its way. So I think we would advise our customers and other businesses to take much more of a steady, slow burn, stepping stone approach and learn along the way. So start small, start with smaller numbers, analyze the data to work out which routes and which operations are the most suitable, test it, look at the data, review, and that then can dramatically reduce the risk of future mistakes, especially then when you come to the point where you want to scale. We're in a real point at the moment where this learning is invaluable for operators. And finally, I mean, there are other options, as well, that people could do alongside this when they're running these the HGV fleets, which is looking at things like carbon offsetting, or just looking and utilizing data, as I've already spoken about, and make efficiencies in how the vehicles are being driven today, which in turn will reduce costs and also reduce carbon emissions.
And this is the bread and butter, isn't it? There's moving a driver to a CNG vehicle or a vehicle that's run on HVO, for example. If that driver's behavior is poor and they're heavy-footed, it's still not going to be the best performance, having just changed the fuel. So you've got to kind of build from the bottom up and make sure that the understanding about the maintenance of the fleet and the drivers, like you say, and the driver behaviour are monitored.
Absolutely, the driver is the absolute critical piece. And when you look at the operations that we have already running today on diesel fleets, the amount of CO2 that can be saved by tackling driver behaviour, such as idling times, harsh braking, things like cornering, speeding, all of that sort of stuff. And most importantly, if you align that with things like digital real-time coaching and monitoring tools, then you can improve the driver performance, which reduces fuel consumption and then will also reduce the carbon emissions.
And save the company money.
Absolutely, and that's exactly right. And I think what's more on that point is that once you've got the connected technology in place, what that does enable you to do, and for executives and management teams, is they can actually provide fact-based evidence of the savings. We've got various existing customers and case studies that we can share with other businesses that demonstrably evidence the savings that can be made, and that can be done relatively simply today. I mean, we've also seen significant carbon emission reductions as a result of things like digitalized routing and planning features that we include within our My Smart Fleet platform. So this is where you can take it to another level and look at optimum route plans, cutting fuel usage, improving utilization, looking at right sizing the fleet from the beginning, and therefore lowering carbon emissions in a different way.
And I kind of want to go back as well, because you talked about the TCO and also the potential of exploring shared infrastructure, which is a really hot topic at the moment. And again, I think Fraikin is in a really good position because you've got oversight of data of so many vehicles that you could probably pull together a shared infrastructure project just within your own fleet. So really very, very interesting and very topical. So don't let that thought go. Sean, one last thing. As we've already said, this market is very much in its infancy. whereas the passenger car side is looking after itself. But still, the government is focused on the passenger car market, and we've heard only this week that there've been reviews of the ZEV mandate and the ICE ban. I'm not saying that doesn't need to happen, but all the while everyone's looking at that market, they're not looking at the van and truck market.
Yes.
And that the deadline for N2 vehicles is, government have said, is 2035. That's 10 years away. And then the bigger vehicles is 2040. It's only 15 years away, and that we're just idling away that time, it feels a little bit, because the focus isn't there. So, I mean, what's your view on the government's role in all of this, and what would you like to see happening?
Well, I think that's a $1 million question, that one, Kate, isn't it? And for me, I can remember a quote from a few years ago, which I think was from Client Earth. The quote was that the direction of travel is clear, but the immediate pathway is not. And to your point, despite that was probably 3-4 years ago, it's just as true now as it was then. And if we look at current targets, you're right in terms of, you're looking at 2040 for all HGV trucks, but actually, when you look at the life cycle of a truck and how long generally operators run a truck for, you're only really looking at a few cycles of a truck before that would mean they would all move across to an alternate fuel. So, and that goes back to the point that I made earlier. I believe that we really are in a key learning phase, and some of our customers that have early adopted, even if it's 1 or 2 trucks or a handful of trucks in a large fleet, the learning that they've taken away from that has been invaluable, particularly when you then come to actually scale these. And, who knows if those dates will be brought further forward, and those operators that have that learning they'll have a real strategic advantage. I think when you look at those dates, there's going to be some real challenges, and to achieve this, we need government agencies like TfL and DfT to deliver on their strategies to ensure that the infrastructure is not a barrier to zero transition, and we need absolute clear policies and deadlines in order to really drive the customers of when and how much to invest into this decarbonisation. You mentioned a figure earlier about it's 20-25% of CO2 emissions that are coming from the industry, and so it's a key measure. We are lobbying through our industry bodies, the likes of the BVRLA, to government to come up with ways of how to support this transition. I think you look at other things. You've got the ZEV mandate trying to drive the manufacturers to produce more electric vehicles. Yet today in trucks, the amount of diesel choice is absolutely huge, for every operation. Conversely, you look at this and you see the fines that the ZEV mandates could drive. And there is a part of me that wonders then whether some manufacturers in the future could pull and reduce production of diesel vehicles because trying to avoid some of these fines, which could escalate the speed at which operators need to speed up their transition. I think the key from a government perspective should be, especially in a time when the industry is going through unprecedented other changes that are not just about sustainability. You have whole new safety measures coming in, all different types of camera system changes and all of that stuff. safety is absolute paramount, and there's so much change happening out there. In addition to sustainability, that they really need some help, and whether that help is through expansion of further grants, whether it's through other things like something like really changing the way the planning system works in order that infrastructure projects can be easier and quicker, then those things would really help the industry, particularly in this time where things are changing so quickly. So just in summary on that point, I think that unless some of these issues are addressed, it's going to be a real challenge for the industry as a whole to move everything across and meet those deadlines as they stand today. Never mind, if those dates are brought forward.
Well, and thank you, Sean. Really, really valid points. And the infrastructure challenge is huge. These projects do take a long time, and it's time we simply haven't got. My concern isn't that the dates will be brought forward. My concern is that the dates will be pushed back. But we absolutely need certainty and commitment in terms of policy, in terms of regulation, legislation, funding, financing, and it needs to happen quickly. If your customers are going to have the confidence to really embrace this transition.
Kate, I mean, even, to just move the eyes away from the specifics of the transport industry at the moment, we're only a week or two ago where you put on the news and you see the awful things that are happening over in Valencia, driven by climate change and global warming, and it absolutely underlines the mission that we're all on, really, in term and the duty really that we have as an industry that contributes 20-25% of the CO2 emissions to really evolve and change. And whilst there are challenges out there, just to try and be a little bit more positive, there are lots of challenges out there. But today there are alternate fuel vehicles that are suitable for most operations, provided they're really well planned. Small steps for the larger fleets. Learn now, ready to scale as the change accelerates.
Great advice. And there is stuff that can be done today, as you've highlighted, Sean. So don't be idle. Start making those small changes today. Sean, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for your thoughts and insights in a topic that is only going to become more and more relevant. So I look forward to speaking to you and Fraikin again on GreenFleet Talks.
Fantastic. See you later, Kate.
Thank you. That is about all we've got time for. Thank you for watching. Tune into GF365 again soon.